49ers off a big win against the Chicago Bears might be getting more reinforcements back in an injury-plagued year, so some positive news there. And Deebo defends his play. Is he just not getting the ball enough? All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all of our everydayers out there. And we see all the new listeners that are jumping in with us, hanging out daily, talking San Francisco 49ers. We'll be here for you every day. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Dre Greenlaw might make an appearance. Could that be just what the 49ers need on a short week to spark them in a must-win game? Thursday Night Football coming up. It's a quick turnaround for an injury-plagued team. Thursday Night Football, Los Angeles Rams. The Rams coming off a big win. The Niners coming off a big win. And Kyle Shanahan, he said he's giving us a chance that maybe we're going to see Dre Greenlaw out there for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to get a little bit more into their injury report, Croc, but here's the quote from Kyle Shanahan on Dre Greenlaw. He said, "There's a chance Dre Greenlaw plays Thursday. We'll see how he's feeling, how practice goes." So his practice window has been open now for a couple of weeks, and it's a possibility. And we saw the spark that Talanoa Hufanga gave the defense for the 49ers last week. Could they get a double spark here with Hufanga playing a few more snaps and potentially Dre Greenlaw out there for the 49ers for the first time all year? I mean, that would be huge. And not closing the door yet on a return from guys like Nick Bosa and Trent Williams as well, although Kyle did say that neither one of them would have practiced likely Monday.
Yeah, I mean, getting a guy like Dre Greenlaw back, I think it, not only boosts the morale of the fans, but definitely the players and his teammates on the field. This is a guy that they've gone to battle with on the football field, and he's done some tremendous things and really got coined the nickname Big Play Dre because of the plays that he's able to make, intercepting passes. If I'm not mistaken, did he seal the win against the Green Bay Packers in the playoff game? So this is a guy that comes up big more times than not, and you've been missing him since the second half of the Kansas City Chiefs game. So now you look at him coming back. What does that mean for the 49ers defense? I think we gotta have to start with him, and a big part of this is going to be how the mental hurdle that you have to get over when you are having, overcoming some of these injuries, especially an injury as significant as an Achilles rupture. How does he feel? Is he able to go all in and not think about anything pertaining to that Achilles? And that would be the biggest thing I worry about. But in the sense of just him coming back and playing, I think that picks up the vibes of everyone in that locker room, especially coming off of a win.
Absolutely. The energy that Dre Greenlaw brings. And, that's why there's a 21-day practice window. That's why he's been practicing for a few weeks, and you ramp him up and you put him through simulated games. Did the same thing with Christian McCaffrey, who was also in the Achilles department with his injury. And then we saw Christian McCaffrey have a different injury that was the one that he was nursing. And we saw with Dre Greenlaw, when he got hurt with his Achilles, it was the opposite Achilles that he was having the tendonitis side on. So you have to look out for those types of injuries that can happen as well. So maybe if he does return, he'll still be on a pitch count for the 49ers, but just the energy, having him out there, we saw how that energy was contagious, having Talanoa Hufanga out there on the field, having both of them out there on the field with Fred Warner. I think it'd be phenomenal. And then it's all hands on deck. If you can play, you're going to play this week against the Los Angeles Rams, because this is a really big game. I want to get into a little bit more specific odds and got some updated odds for playoffs potentially, because bad news for the 49ers is that the Rams and the Seahawks both won last week. And so they kind of controlled their destiny. Now the Niners are going to need some help. And what does that mean for them? Looking at the rest of the injury report, according to Kyle Shanahan, and now they didn't practice, but he kind of went through what guys would have practiced. And there's a practice report out because it's a short week. Ben Barch likely is going to go on IR, but Aaron Banks is clear or has cleared concussion protocol. So it looks like Banks is going to be back. So he'll be at left guard. Ben Barch no longer at left guard. Spencer Burford will be relegated back to backup duty there with Ben Barch, who had a high ankle sprain in that game, most likely headed for the injured reserve list. So that's the left guard position. And the other big one in the game was rookie running back Isaac Guerrero had a foot injury. Looks like a foot sprain for him. And Kyle said about his availability Thursday, quote, "We'll evaluate him over the next few days and see if he's got a shot." So clear as mud there as far as Isaac Guerrero goes, is his availability for Thursday, a foot sprain for him. So I think those are the biggest news items as far as injuries go for the 49ers heading into a short week here. A few more injuries actually that popped up, Croc, from the game that I didn't even realize were injuries. Malik Mustafa, he would have been a limited participant in practice. He's dealing with a chest and a shoulder injury. Hufanga would be full go right now. Sam Okuwanu would be full go. As I mentioned, Aaron Banks, he would be full go. So of guys that are banged up and have been on the injury list, those guys are going to hit practice hard this week, getting ready for the Thursday game. D. Winters has an ankle injury. He would be limited along with Malik Mustafa and Yetur Gross-Matos. Even though we had 3 sacks last week, we saw him limping around on the field a little bit, and he's been banged up, and he would still be limited in practice. Dre Greenlaw, limited participant if they would have practiced Monday. Demetrius Flango-Fowles, limited participant if they would have practiced Monday with a knee injury. And guys that would not have practiced, I mentioned Barch probably going to IR. Bosa, Guerrero, and Trent Williams would not have practiced Monday, even if they did have a practice. So that's the full injury report. Man, Bosa, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Fred Warner. Like, if you can put that unit on the field, I think you start to feel pretty good about your chances, right, Croc? And maybe better chances of stopping the Rams from scoring 44 points than the Buffalo Bills, because as impressive as the blowout win was for the 49ers, that was against the Chicago Bears. The Rams did it to the Buffalo Bills, 44-42. And that's an offense you got to stop. And the Rams are a different offense when they have a healthy Stafford, a healthy Puka Nacua, and a healthy Cooper Kupp, which they had last week, and they look like they're going to have this week again against the 49ers.
That was one of the more impressive wins, because when everything is going wrong for you defensively and you're not able to stop a guy, your offense says, "Oh, don't worry about it. You know, we'll just put up 44." I say offense. One of those touchdowns came off of a special teams block punt return, but they figured out a way to put up 44 points. And I think that's huge. So that's as impressive as anything I've seen. The 49ers, when you go into a game like this, especially after losing in the first meeting, you know, we have to figure out a way to just outscore. I mean, this is obvious, right? To win the game, you have to outscore the other team. But if the Rams are capable of putting up 28 points, 31 points, can you outscore that team? And right now, the 49ers defense play very well against the Chicago Bears. Prior to the Chicago Bears, you did not play well against the Buffalo Bills. You did not play very well against the Green Bay Packers. So can you figure out a way to continue drives, not get stopped and whatnot, and continue to score points against a team that can put up a lot of points, especially with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp ready and available. And now they're kind of running the ball. You have a tandem with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, and the Rams are kind of, they're not like this great juggernaut team, but they are a team at any point, in any game, they can kind of get things going. I think that's scary when facing a Niners team that outside the Bears game, they haven't played well over the last quarter of the season. So those are the things that just kind of worry me just a little bit as it pertains to the 49ers.
Croc, Deebo Samuel fired back on social media against some of his critics. We were critical on the post-game show. I asked the question, is the wide back dead? You said, is Deebo Samuel dead? Isn't that same guy anymore? Deebo maybe was listening to the pod. He fires back against no one specific, but he put it out there what he thinks about his play this year, where he's at, and what he needs to get going, which is the rock more than he's actually gotten it so far. We'll get into that next, and updated playoff odds for the 49ers to get in and potentially even sneak in and win the NFC West next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Ice Shaker. I know if you're like me, your holiday shopping is not done. Let's just say that list is far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fans in your life. Perhaps you've heard of Ice Shaker. Croc and I have talked about it over the course of the last week. We've been blown away by the quality of the Ice Shaker. The 4D model is the one that Croc and I got, 49ers specific. They've got tons of different officially licensed NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA workout mugs, and these are the ideal gift. Created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers, Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with workout bottles, and this is the gift you've been looking for. Go to iceshaker.com, use code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% on your order. And by the way, customizable too. You can send your own logo in and go to the custom shop to customize your favorite bottle. The 49ers ones look phenomenal. I was blown away by the quality. The agitator works as a strainer as well and is dead quiet while you are shaking up. None of the loud balls. And it's we're talking about stainless steel here and not those plastic containers that can really carry all kinds of stuff. So order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shakers, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. Ice Shakers. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is the place to play daily fantasy sports. And that's why we love talking about Prize Picks here on Locked On 49ers. And if you love watching the game, why not play along with the game as well? Real DFS money, real DFS action, whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports. Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. Talking Picksmas season at Prize Picks. Holiday season, they're giving away $30 million plus in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And now you can win up to not just 100 times your money, 200 times your money on Prize Picks. All you do is you pick 2 or more players, more or less than their stat projections on Prize Picks, and watch the winnings roll in. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Just $5. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Croc. Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel had this to say less than 24 hours after we questioned whether Deebo was still that dude. He thinks he is still that dude. He said very simply on Twitter, at 19 problems, not struggling at all, just not getting the ball, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, shrug. What are your thoughts on Deebo's assessment of himself? Not only not being dead, but needing to get fed in the San Francisco 49ers offense.
I think when it comes to getting getting touches, getting the receivers the ball, I've probably been the biggest advocate of guys aren't being schemed up enough, right? Especially in the passing game. But when it comes to Deebo Samuel, I always exclude 2 guys that I feel like the 49ers do try to manufacture touches for, and that's Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is not out there, but Deebo Samuel, they do try to figure out different ways to get the ball in his hands. I think that's a big part of Kyle Shanahan's game plan. And I think the tough thing with Deebo is he's like kind of limited himself to being, I don't want to be disrespectful and call him a one-trick pony, but
gadget.
He has to be used so specific. And within those touches, if he doesn't spring something or have a big play, it can start to get a little weird. So he's talking about getting the ball in his hands. But yesterday, and I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, 2 catches on, I want to say 3 targets, if I'm not mistaken. And then he had another 3-4 carries.
5 carries. 5 carries for 13 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. It's his worst season as the wide back for the San Francisco 49ers since his breakout 2021. And 2 catches on 3 targets for 22 yards. He had the 2-yard screen, and then he popped a 20-yarder. So Deebo's saying, look,
touches for him.
That's a good amount of touches. That's more touches than George Kittle got. It's the same amount of targets that Juwan Jennings got. And so, yeah. And it's the big play that's missing from Deebo's game. He hasn't had that one last broken tackle that he needs to break one. And the wide back thing is just flat out not happening when he's back there. And he's been used more as a running back actually this year than he was in 2021. Now, 2021, the usage was higher in a shorter term because he didn't start the season in that role, and that sort of came about and ended up happening throughout the season. But he's got 32 carries this year. He's only 5 shy of the carries he had last year in 15 games. So through 12 games, he's got 32 carries, but 2.9 yards per carry, which is half of what he had last year, and less than half of what he had last year, less than half of what he had in that breakout 21 season as the wide back, only 1 touchdown. And so if everything else was the same for Deebo, but then he had a few more of those big runs and long touchdowns and bigger plays, his longest rush of the season so far this year on 32 carries is 12 yards. He was breaking off 51-yarders, 49-yarders in 2021 and 2022. And as a receiver, he's got the one long 76-yarder, but and he did have a 20-yarder last week, but I think it's the big plays that he's not quite breaking off. And as you put it, if he's not making big plays in catch and run situations, he's not a route him up, going to get the ball a ton of times through the natural progression of the game type of receiver. And he's always been a guy that Kyle has been happy to manufacture touches for, and he's still doing it. He gets the ball a lot in this offense. He's just doing less with the ball than he has in the past. I mean, that's what all the stats say. That's what our eyes tell us about Deebo Samuel this year.
I think you go back to like his rookie year and the second year as well, and I guess the third year where he had the 1,400 yards. I think year 2 he got banged up a little bit, but he was just used so many different ways there. Like he just made it to where you don't have to just scheme me for touches around the line of scrimmage. He was winning vertical as well. He was winning a lot more on those kind of those 10 to 20 yard throws where the 49ers they eat, right? There's a lot of their offense that's predicated on that. He was excelling there. And just now you don't see it. Heck, I remember the 49ers throwing deep comebacks to him. Just, 12, 13-yard curls, and boom, he, works back to the ball, catches, like just doing receiver-y type stuff. And I'd say since his big year where he had the 1,400 yards, they've gone further and further away from using him in that way. And I don't think that's because that's what they want to do. I think that is specific to what they feel like his best usage is right now. Like, hey, we want to win this game and we want to utilize Deebo Samuel. What's the best way to do it? It's not all these other things. It's handing the ball off to the backfield to him and see if he can accelerate around this corner or, and break a tackle or so. Throw these screens to him. But if those things aren't popping, I think it gets a little tougher to really utilize him the way that a lot of people feel like he can potentially be utilized.
Yeah, and when you're scouting Deebo Samuel in 2024 and the things you're looking at with him, it's twofold. He's not physically breaking some of the tackles that he has in the past to create some of those big plays, and you're not seeing that. Wow, you're not seeing that. Oh man, Deebo, look at that acceleration. Deebo pulling away from these guys. You're not seeing those types of plays. And I'm sure he feels like the same guy, but to me, it doesn't look quite the same. He doesn't look completely washed, like he doesn't belong in the league or anything crazy like that. But just it's not enough there. And they're doing a lot to manufacture him touches and get him the football, in my opinion. And here's a perfect example, and it's 3 letters. It's yak. And the 49ers have been nowhere near the yards after catch, the yak team that they've been in the past. Deebo Samuel doesn't even have half as many yak yards as he had last year right now. 301 yards after the catch so far this season for Deebo Samuel on 40 receptions. And last year on 73 receptions, he had 632 yak yards. He had 659 yak yards on 69 receptions in 2022. And then the 2021 season, he had 900, he had almost 1,000 yards after the catch in 2021. And if you look at yak per reception, it's the lowest of his entire career, even his rookie season this year. 7.5 yak yards per reception, 8.7 last year, 9.6. So on a downward trend since 2021 at his peak Actually, his peak wasn't even 2021. His peak was his second year. 10.8 yards after the catch per reception in 2021, and 12.2 yards after the catch per reception in 2020. You mentioned some injuries for him in year two there. And then his rookie season, he was still 8.4 yards after the catch per reception. This year, he's probably going to end with fewer yak per reception and yak yards than every season, but his second year that he was banged up a lot as far as total yak yards, but that was his best year as far as yak per reception. So the numbers are down across the board, and my eyes tell me something's down as well with Deebo Samuel. And I don't know how he feels. I think he gets the ball plenty. So I disagree that it's just getting him the ball more. Would he have more stats if he got the ball more? Sure. But I would say who needs, if we're like pushing the sliders right now in the 49ers offense, right? You got this many targets. You got to push this up. Someone else has to come down. I'm pushing Kittle up before I'm pushing up Deebo more. And I'm pushing up probably Juwan Jennings and maybe even a little Pearsall. And I might even be pulling Deebo down a little bit. I would for sure be taking the wide back stuff off the plate. Because and we're going to see it more this week, probably if Isaac Rendo's out, and it just hasn't been there. The wide back thing is just not working at all right now.
Well, think about it. Why have I been pleading for the 49ers to utilize George Kittle in a different way? No, because with what he's done with his targets, with his opportunities, there's been multiple games now where he's been targeted 6 times. And guess what he has? 6 catches. And he's hovering or surpassing 100 yards. So, of course, I'm going to want this guy to get much more opportunities, get him much more touches. You got to manufacture him because of what he does with it when you give those to him. Deebo right now, he's not doing anything for me to advocate to Kyle Shanahan through this podcast to give him more touches. Like there hasn't been any of that. And that's tough. Matter of fact, I mean, he did have an explosive play against Seattle in their first meeting, and that was almost like, if the safety would have found the ball, that could have been a big kind of a moment. But he didn't. Deebo did a great job of tracking the ball in. They missed him. Boom, he took off. But we're not seeing that on a consistent basis. Right now, if you guys see me look up sometimes at the TV, I'm seeing what's going on in Cowboys versus Cincinnati Bengals. You watch CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase right now. They're not even at halftime, and both those guys are pushing 70-plus yards. Like give me the ball. Throw me the ball because I'm going to make something happen. And early on, CeeDee Lamb had 3 catches for like 25 yards. That's nothing crazy, right? But then his 4th catch, boom, springs off about 50-yard run after catch opportunity. And it was behind the line. It was like, hey, let's throw a screen to him. And then he starts running this way, then cuts back, makes the guy miss, and he's running down the sideline and picks up like 45 yards. Like that, yeah. Let's keep getting these guys touches. I don't get that same feeling right now as it pertains to Deebo. And this is a guy that's been one of my favorite players on the 49ers since he came in the league.
Love watching Deebo play. That's it's not like anti-Deebo. It's almost a little disappointment in him not providing some of those plays that are so fun to watch and some of the plays that he's made in the past. And again, he's not a bad football player. He's a starting caliber wide receiver in the NFL. It's just it's not as good as it has been in the past. And that happens. You can start talking about, you can start pocket watching and saying, oh, well, he's making this much money, needs to be putting up this much production. But I've got one more stat I think tells the biggest tale, and it's yards per route run. And the yards per route run is not there. Who's number 1 yards per route run on the 49ers as far as catching the football, Croc? Is George Kittle. You look at Pro Football Focus, he's the highest graded player. He got the best yards per route run for the 49ers right now. Number 2 yards per route run is Jacob Cowing. Now, hasn't run that many routes, but he is number 2 in yards per route run on the 49ers offense. Might want to see him get the ball a couple more times. Juwan Jennings would be next, then Brandon Ayuk, then Deebo Samuel as far as yards per route run on the 49ers offense. And he's still well ahead of Ricky Pearsall as far as the production goes, though. So, yeah, I mean, keep giving Deebo the ball. Hopefully he starts breaking them. Right now, he's just not. And that's where I'm at with it. Playoff odds, Croc. How's 5% sound? 5% chance to win the division for the San Francisco 49ers. Even with the big win, odds went down. Might need some help. Let's talk a little bit about the playoff scenario for the San Francisco 49ers because there is still a chance. And how does it happen? Well, they got to win a lot of games. They need just a little bit of help that I think we can probably project some of that help will happen. Let's get into it next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action right now with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL. You want to bet on the NBA? Do that too. NHL, any of the sporting events that you can think of, you can find the odds and get in on the action at FanDuel, and tons of NFL props every single week, tons of postseason props, awards props, and a whole lot more. All you got to do is download the app or visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 5%. Not great odds for the San Francisco 49ers, who are going to need a little bit of help right now. According to ESPN Next Gen Stats, or is that NFL Next Gen Stats? I can't remember who does the Next Gen Stat. It's a different company that does the ESPN Stats. So yeah, NFL Next Gen Stats. The 49ers, fourth place currently in the NFC West at 6-7. They've got a 5% chance to win the division, 9% chance, though, to make the playoffs. So just under 10% chance. Arizona Cardinals have that same 9% chance to make the playoffs. Little higher, 2% higher chance, 7% to win the division. Then it jumps up for the Los Angeles Rams, who the 49ers are going to play this week, and can really alter what these percentages are with a win Thursday. 26% chance for the Rams to win the division, 29% chance to win the playoffs, and obviously to get into the playoffs, and obviously not a it's a little bit more difficult for a lot of these teams to get even into the wild card. So it's all about the division with these percentages. And the Seattle Seahawks, after that win, now first place at 8-5, Croc, have a 62% chance to win the division, 66% chance to make the playoffs, only team above a 50% shot at getting in the dance this year. And before we talk more about the 49ers, I think it's fascinating with the Rams and the Seahawks, because the Rams, even though they're second, they play the Seahawks in week 18, and the Rams still control their own destiny, because if the Rams win out, that means they beat the Seahawks. That means they'll have the tiebreaker, and the Seahawks will have at least one more loss, and the Rams would actually win the division and get into the playoffs over the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks and Rams both control their own destiny, and it could come down to that week 18 matchup unless they lose a couple games, and then that's where the Cardinals and the 49ers are eyeing it and have an opportunity if they win out, especially because I just have a feeling that none of these teams are going to win out, Croc. There's going to be some losses in there, right? But the Niners absolutely have to win 3 of the 4 games, and probably need to win all 4 of the games, and for sure have to beat the Rams on Thursday, and for sure have to beat the Cardinals in week 18 if they've got any shot to get in and have some tiebreakers here in the NFC West. So that is the odds report breakdown right now on the NFC West and the San Francisco 49ers chances. 5%. Not great. Still possibility. Need a little help.
49ers need a lot of help. And on top of needing help, you have to beat teams like the Detroit Lions. I mean, that right there alone, that's going to be tough. And then you have to beat 2 teams that you lost to earlier in the season. I think there's a reason why the 49ers odds right now are at 5%. But if there's any team that can just kind of figure it out, just when you think they're down and out, it's the 49ers. So we're definitely going to be, eyeing not just the 49ers game, but these other divisional teams, and kind of seeing how this whole thing is shaking up. If I had to guess, 49ers on this Thursday, how huge of a game is this to play against the Rams? And I've already talked about it. Like, my confidence level, not really high, but all it takes is 49ers get a couple drives going. Matthew Stafford turn the ball over. He's done all these things against the 49ers. Now, the 49ers have more times than not, especially in the regular season, had the Rams number. So, man, you got a big opportunity here. And if I'm coaching the 49ers, I know we're talking about all these different scenarios. You got to take it one game at a time. That's it. You got to control what you can control, take it one game at a time. And right now I'm focused on this big matchup, because you beat the Rams. Now all of a sudden you guys kind of swap spots. And you hope that Seattle loses, and you'll start seeing yourself getting a little bit closer and closer to them. It just sucks that the 49ers blew that lead against Seattle, because this conversation right now would be drastically different.
Yeah, the Rams game, that's a huge one because the 49ers would be in a better spot than the Rams are right now if you just flip that one Rams 49ers game that the Niners had, right? And it'd be Niners are 7-6 right now. And they would have that win, an extra win in the division. They would have an extra win in the NFC. And they would be probably a 40% chance to make the playoffs just with that one game. It was a 35% chance difference. Don't quote me on what the percentage would be, but it would be huge. And they would have a better chance right now to make the playoffs than the Rams do right now when they're whatever, 26, 29%. To get in. So those losses are really rearing their ugly heads right now. 49ers probably have some confidence. Then you get a chance to rest and have a mini bye going into the holiday here after this Thursday night game. You obviously have to have this one, but it's been like the Rams and the Seahawks, they're going to win 4 straight. It's been hard for any team to win 2 straight games in the NFC West right now. Think about the Rams season, right? They're like, oh, man, here we go. Stafford looks great. Puka, Kupp, they look awesome. And then what happens? The next week, they're like, oh, this team looks like garbage again, right? The 49ers have done the same thing. Cardinals doing the same thing. The Seattle Seahawks have put together a few more wins lately, but they've done a lot of the same thing as well. Like, these teams aren't going to win 4 games in a row. They're not going to win 3 games in a row, probably. So there's going to be an opportunity. Which team is on the biggest heater here in the last 4 weeks of the season is the team that's going to come away with the hardware. So the Niners have a shot. Obviously, they got to win a lot of games, and they need some help, though, because they dug that hole, and that's the disappointing part of the season for the Niners.
Yeah, I think disappointing. The Cardinals probably disappointed with how the last few games have gone. They've dropped 3 straight games, but in their favor, their next 2 games, New England Patriots, Carolina Panthers. So for them, they're just looking like, all right, we got to win these next 2. And that'll get us in a nice little position to play the Rams and then the 49ers. And they're probably kind of really comfortable or confident with where they're sitting at right now. If I'm a Cardinals fan, I could see if there's any team that can kind of run the table, I think that's the team that's set up for to have the most success.
I mean, can we get a 4-way 9-8 tie to end the season? I don't care if the Niners even get in, but I don't know. That'd be fun for me to just see a 4-way tie. And we're probably good. Like, I already know what's going to happen in a couple weeks. Niners win this game. We're going to be so knee deep, neck deep. And okay, what's the second tiebreaker? Okay, what's the third tiebreaker? You got strength of victory in there somewhere. You got, I don't even know what the fourth tiebreaker is, but that would be a lot more fun. Just for our sake and our mental, like, Niners lose Thursday. It's mock draft Monday, Croc, right? I don't want it to be mock draft Monday, right?
It might be mock draft Thursday. We're supposed to be giving out game balls. We're going to be giving out game balls to some of these college players that we like.
That's true. Oh man. So that's where we're at. Real quick, the Rams schedule the rest of the way. There's some tough teams on the schedule. There's tough teams on the Niners schedule still, but they've gotten through some of the tough stuff. Still have the Lions, obviously, there. After the 49ers, the Rams have the Jets. Jets, Cards, Seahawks. So they end double back-to-back against the NFC West. And the Seahawks still have the Bills, right? Maybe it's the Seahawks that have the toughest schedule of the group. The Seahawks have, where's the singing schedule? Gosh dang it. I'll pull it up in 1 second. The Seahawks.
I have it pulled up. They have the Packers. So they play Packers, Vikings, Bears, Rams.
Packers,
that
Vikings.
Is tough. I mean, just those NFC North games in general. That's tough. Not all 3 of them, but definitely the Packers and the Vikings. And we just watched Sam Darnold throw 5 touchdowns Sunday evening.
What's the over-under? 2 more wins for the Seahawks? They're not going to win more than 10.
I'd mark it right at 2.
They could go 1-3 pretty easy.
But if they go, let's say they go 2-2, and what do the 49ers have to do to get in? You'd have to go 3. You have to win 3 out of the last 4.
The Niners would have to win out because they'd have to be 10-7. And it depends which games, because it would be that the Seahawks would need to lose the division games because you would need them to not have the division record tiebreaker. And they just had a big one over the Cardinals last week.
Yeah.
So that's where it's at. All right. Still a chance. 5% chance to win the division for the San Francisco 49ers here. I didn't think this is where we'd be. 4th place in the NFC West after 14 weeks of play, but it's still tight. Croc and I back tomorrow, Winky Wednesday style. We're going to quick turnaround here. Thursday nighter. We'll be talking Los Angeles Rams as well right here. Stay tuned. Locked On 49ers.